gentlemen, I present to you now something the likes of which you've never seen before. The most dangerous combination in professional sports. The skill, the strength, the stamina, and the ability of two men blended together as one. The most exciting combination in the history of professional wrestling. Twin sons of different mothers.
Chris Adams and Mike Currents.
At Body Slam competition.
All right, everybody. Chris Adams here at Body Slam the competition. Thanks for joining us again this week. And as promised, we do have a special guest this week. We have none other than Brian Christopher himself. Brian Christopher from Memphis Wrestling, or as some of you probably remember him from his Too Cool days, Grandmaster. Was it Grandmaster Sexxay or Grandmaster Sexy? Did you stress it out?
Oh my gosh, Chris!
Did you stress it out?
You are killing me softly. You got me. You got Brian Christopher, former WWE World Tag Team Champion, on the phone right here, and you can't even get my name right. I'm going to come through this line, and I'm going to break your face. You know what I'm saying? It is Sexxay.
Sexxay.
S-E-X-A-Y.
We have to put the A. You have to stress the A for sure.
Yeah. It's hip hop. You know what I'm saying? You can't be Grandmaster Sexy. You got to be Sexxay.
But you know, you're dropping hip hop, and I'm a hard rock man. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I've always loved the metal music more than the hip hop and everything. But I will tell you, for hip hop, even though I wasn't a huge hip hop fan, we were a big Too Cool fan. That was a great thing y'all pulled off of that. It was very entertaining. Very entertaining. Matter of fact, my co-host that's normally with me, he couldn't make it today. He wanted me to ask you one question in particular, so I'm going to make sure I remember this question, not mess it up for him.
All right.
Being that you guys were in the group Too Cool there, and you had your time with Rikishi, with the three of you together, he just want to know what your thoughts was on Rikishi, I can't say it right, Rikishi making the Hall of Fame.
Oh, man, that's great. He's deserving of it. He's been there a long time. A lot of people don't realize just how long that he's been in the wrestling business. I've been in the wrestling business 29 years myself, but he's actually been in it longer, been in the WWE longer, wrestled as the Sultan, put in good time there, went down to Memphis wrestling with me. Hold on, give me 1 second, brother. Hold on a second. All right, man. I'm driving in the car right now, and I actually pulled up here to drive through the window and had to get my food. But anyway, man, back to what I was saying. Back to my boy Rikishi. I call him my oos. You know what that means? That's Samoan for brother. That's how close we are. We're just like brothers. We traveled up and down the road. When I first got to the WWE, I came up at the same time as Rocky. The Rock.
Right.
And because he came down to Memphis, they sent Vince sent him down to Memphis to hone his craft and to get some time in the ring and everything. He had just come from Canada wrestling. I mean, not wrestling, but playing in the USFL and playing Canadian football up there. So he was new to the wrestling scene. So me and him, hit it off pretty well and started riding together. And was driving about 2,500 miles a week down here wrestling in Memphis, Louisville, Evansville, Nashville, the same circuit every week traveling together. But when I went to WWE, we were called up at the same time, so we went up and we still continued to ride together. We did that for about 3 years. And then next thing I know, he's got limousines picking him up from the airport, and he's going to 5-star steakhouses, and he's staying in the penthouse at the Marriott and stuff like that. So I said, well, it might be time for me to move on. So I moved on into the car with Rikishi, and we hit it off great. Actually, before he was a member of Too Cool, we were riding together, and then it just worked out perfect to where me and Scotty started out Too Cool as heels. It was a spoof on the hip hop scene, making fun of the urban lifestyle and everything. But the fans, they just took to it and they embraced us and really were being entertained with what we were doing. So, it wasn't long before the writers switched us over to babyface, and then we did that for for about a year or so, and the next thing you know, we got a big 400-pound blonde-haired Samoan, sticking his ass in everybody's face, dancing with us, in all these arenas and stuff. And that was just, that was the pinnacle right there. That's when we really shot up on the card. A lot of people don't know unless you were going to the house shows back then, and you probably forgotten if you were. But on the house shows, that if you don't know what a house show is, it's a show other than a televised event, like a Raw or a SmackDown. So on the house shows, they would only have maybe like Stone Cold versus the Undertaker or something as the big highlighted match. But we were always on the card. So in order to let Stone Cold and the Undertaker, who's been in the business for a long time and put in their time, to let them get out of the arena and get back to the hotel and stuff like that, they would always switch the card around, let them go on like third match or fourth match and get dressed, get showered, and get out of there. And then they would always save Too Cool for the main event, because they knew that, the main event's got to get the people on their feet and have them leaving and with a smile on their face and everything. So, we would always finish our match and then do our celebratory dance that we did after the match was over with the fireworks and all that kind of stuff. So we was always able to hold up our end with closing down a show with everybody in a good frame of mind and everything. So that was special, being the main event. On cards all over the country, actually all over the world. We did that over in England quite a few times and stuff like that. So Canada, all over Canada. But anyway,
something about seeing a big guy dance. People really dig that stuff. They really get into it.
Yeah, that gave him a whole nother. He was already Rikishi, but then when they saw that a 400-pound Samoan guy can bust a move, that gave him a new twist to his character, and people just ate it up, and then they really ate it up literally when he stuck his ass in their face. You know what I'm saying? That was I don't know if besides the worm and the stink face are two of the greatest moves in the history of the WWE. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I don't see how anybody let Vince pay them enough to let him put his butt in their face and wiggle it around a little bit. I got a little. Whenever anybody talks about the stink face or anything, I always got a special memory when it comes to the stink face. When now don't tell this to nobody, okay? But when Trish Stratus first got to the WWE, she was the valet for TNA. You remember TNA, Test and Albert? Right.
Okay, you see him? Damn, dog. You didn't know my last name, and then you don't know who Test and Albert is?
Come on, man. Sexxay. It's all the same thing.
I can tell that right there means, yeah, sure, I know who Test is. Test. You know who Test is. He passed away. And
remember Test. I remember Albert. You don't remember Trish Stratus
and
now.
Albert. Albert is Matt Bloom, Prince Albert. Had all the piercings all over. Anyway, she was their valet. Well, she had done some stuff to rub people the wrong way in the dressing room, and so Rikishi said, "Hey, dog." So we set up the match. Back then, the agents and everything, they weren't so involved in the matches and everything. So we came up with what we did pretty much, just the guys that are working the match. So we had it set up to where instead of Test or Albert taking the stink face, we was going to get Trish in there and wind up getting her in the turnbuckle and giving her the stink face. So Rikishi said, "Hey, dog," we're in the dressing room, he says, "Hey, dog, how about if I give Trish a real stink face?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "All right, well, I'll show you. I'm about to take a shit and I ain't gonna wipe."
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, so it happened, baby. It happened right there in Toronto, Canada, her hometown of Toronto, with her boyfriend in attendance for his first wrestling match ever. So that's one of the reasons I'll never forget that.
I have heard some stories in the past from some guys that whether it be at a live event like a Comic Con where they show up or talking to people on the phone, and that has got to take the cake right there.
That takes the cake. Well, I got plenty more where that came from, dog. But but I ain't got all the time. I ain't got all the time in the world. So
look,
let's get to moving. Come on.
I'm gonna try and make up for my ignorance of the pronunciation of the last name here. I have seen you since you have broken business. I've seen you since you came out in Memphis wrestling, because I grew up in Tennessee, so I was a big Memphis wrestling fan. I remember, even when you brought Rocky out there as your tag team partner, and I want to say you were going against Dundee and I don't know if it was Dundee and Lawler or Dundee and somebody else.
Dundee and Lawler.
Okay,
Dundee and Lawler.
So you brought the
I'll never
Rocky
forget that match. I'll never forget that match because the finish involved the Superstar Bill Dundee and my dad putting me and The Rock in double abdominal stretches. Remember that?
Yes.
I've never heard of that before, but we were both thrown into the ropes and put in abdominal stretches, right there, and then I think we ended up hitting the referee or something to get disqualified. So. I do remember that match. Matter of fact, that was right before that match was The Rock's first interview on live television. And so,
it was not all that great, to be honest with you. The first
brother,
week,
I'll tell you what he said right now, because I'll never forget it. You know what I'm saying? I actually had to take the microphone away and say, "Excuse me, he's going to start over again."
Yeah.
Because he says, now I've done cut my promo. You know what I'm saying? And I'm used to it because I'm on live television ever since 1988. You know what I'm saying? So I'm doing my thing. I'm hauling and squalling. I'm climbing the wall and I'm doing all this. And then I was saying, and tell him about it. His name was Flex Cavana at the time. So I said, and tell him what we're going to do, Flex. He says, yeah, that's right. Because I dine on death and I feast on famine. Now, I'm thinking to myself, he dines on death.
Was he hawk or animal? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, exactly. So then he starts rambling on about something else, he's a road warrior all of a sudden. So that's when I said, no. And so I'll tell you what. Now, there's another story. A lot of people don't know this either. All right, I'll finish. Give me 1 second. Hold on, bro. Give me Pyramid and Paul Shore and a tweaker. All right, man. See, now I'm trying to do this interview while I'm driving around taking care of business. TCW, taking care of business, baby.
You take your time with it. We're not going to rush.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Because I got a lot of. All right, let's see here. All right, man. Now back to what I was talking about. The Rock and his interview prowess. After he cut that promo on TV, and it was, horrendous. We got in the car and we're traveling because we would do live television on Saturday morning in Memphis, and then that night we would travel to Nashville, which is about 200 miles from Memphis, about a 3-hour trip.
Right.
So on that trip, on that
fairgrounds, right?
Huh?
Down to the fairgrounds.
Yeah, National
right?
Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
National Fairgrounds every Saturday night, and on that trip, we got to talking about promos. Because I would help out guys. Live promos. Thank you, man. Live promos came naturally to me. Because I've been watching Memphis TV. My whole life, pretty much. Ever since I was old enough to watch TV, I was watching, Saturday morning wrestling and everything. And so I saw how guys did it, and they just rolled with it. You know what I'm saying? If you get tongue twisted or tongue tied or whatever, you just roll with it, and just keep on going and make it like, you didn't skip a beat. So I was trying to explain that to Rocky, and I was like, listen, man, I'm gonna tell you what. I said, you got the charisma and you got the look. All you need to do is be able to cut a promo. You put that package together, and you got something that can make some money. You know what I'm saying? You got what we call in the business. You can, when you're able to make money, and you're able to make the promotion money, that means you have drawing power. You can draw. You know what I'm saying? If you can put a button to seat and have them buy a ticket to see you, you can draw. That's what we say. I said, so you can, you got the charisma, you got the look. You just get yourself able to cut a promo, and you'll be able to draw. I said, what you need to do is you need to go out and you need to find back then it wasn't DVD. I think it was still VHS. I said, every VHS tape you can find of the Universal Heartthrob Austin Idol. I said, you got the same persona, that he was the men's pet and the women's regret. No, he was the women's pet and the men's regret. You remember that? I know you know about Austin Idol.
Everybody knows Austin Idol. If you grew up in Tennessee, you knew who Austin Idol was for sure.
Oh yeah,
I
the
mean,
Universal
one of
Heartthrob.
Lawler's best enemies, one of his best tag partners, just like Dundee.
Right. Cut a promo. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If he cut a 60-second promo, you are listening to every word he said. You know what I'm saying? Because he's put emphasis on the right words, and he's stopping, and he's patting his face. You know what I'm saying? Looking in the mirror at how good he looks and all that. I said, watch you some Austin Idol and learn from Austin Idol. And so he did that. And if you ever watch some of his interviews, you know where he takes his thumb and he turns his cheek, turns his chin to one side, and then he turns it back to the other side. Remember that? That's all Austin Idol. All that, Austin, almost everything you see in the wrestling business has been done before. You know what I'm saying? All this stuff is not new. You know what I mean? Except for things like maybe like Andre the Giant or so, anomaly like that. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. But all the angles and everything you see, it's all been done in the past. Somewhere at some time there were promotions, that ran weekly television shows just like we did in Memphis, all over the place. So you had to come up with something new to entertain these fans. You know what I'm saying? And then you're in the same, like I talked about, being in Memphis on Saturday mornings and being in Nashville Saturday night. Well, those fans that are there Saturday night, are pretty much, the same fans are going to be there every single Saturday night. They're going to be there to watch their wrestling. They're not going to miss a live event. You know what I'm saying? Just imagine, put this into perspective. Now just think if the WWE ran Madison Square Garden every Saturday night. Do you think that it would sell out, every single Saturday night?
I would like to say yes, but gosh, I mean, people complain now because SmackDown is the same thing as Raw over and over again. So I mean, I don't know if they would continuously do it.
I'm talking about 50 times a year at the Madison Square Garden. I would have to say I don't think it's going to sell out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, right now, what are they? Because back when back in the day, we would run Madison Square Garden about 4 times a year. And we got Stone Cold and The Rock and DX and China and Too Cool and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit, and we got a loaded roster. But Madison Square Garden is a hard ticket to sell. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And because those fans are smart, so they're if they don't see a card that's worth going to, they're going to stay home. You know what I'm saying? You got to fight the subway, you got to walk, and all that kind of stuff. So New York fans are some hardcore fans. So I would think they'd have a really, really hard time selling out 50 times a year at the Madison Square Garden. But anyway, back to what we was talking about, The Rock. I kind of got, like I told you before we got on here, I said, brother, you get me started, and I'm going to go in about 5 different directions. But I'll still keep you entertained, you know what I'm saying? But The Rock, he was able.
You're doing all the good stuff here.
Yeah, the Rock was able to like I said, he had the total package, and he put it all together. We would come up with them catchphrases in the car and stuff, and at the gym and stuff like that. And he could come up with some good ones. You know what I mean? He'd have me rolling. I'd say, "Oh, you got to use that one. You got to use that one." And then when the people's elbow, you know what I'm saying? He's like, "All right, he didn't know he was going to do an elbow at first. We didn't even have a name for it. You know what I'm saying? He's like, "All right, I'm gonna slam him down, then I'm gonna hit the ropes, and I'm gonna hit the ropes. And what do you think I should drop on him?" I'm like, "Oh man, you got to do something good." And he's like, "What about an elbow?" I said, "Brother, you're going to hit the ropes and then step over the dude and hit the ropes again, and just to give an elbow?" He said, yeah, that'd be great. I'm like, "Oh, all right, man, give it a try." So, I mean, you know what I mean? He did it, and boom, and the people saw it, and they reacted to it. Then you do it over and over, and you get it in their mind that, he's going to do all this for an elbow. an elbow drop. You know what I'm saying? That just makes it even better. You know what I mean? And then you add him taking the elbow pad off, you know, and really amping it up and milking it real good, you know. So that's just like, here I go branching off again. That's just like Scotty with the worm, you know, when he was getting the worm together and everything in his head, you know, he's like, and then after I do the worm a couple of times, what should I hit him with? I was like, oh, man, you got to hit him with something good. He said, what about a karate chop? I said, hold on, man. You're going to do all this. You're going to put your arms out, run in place, and hop on one foot and spell out worm. And then you hit the worm, and you worm, all to give a karate chop? He's like, yeah, that'd be great. I was like, all right, man, go for it. That's what you want to do. And what do you know? Lo and behold, it got over. You know what I'm saying? So you never know in the wrestling business.
You know, I don't think it's the move. I think it's how you sell it. That's what it is, really. It's not the move.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. Part of it is the selling, but, you know, you can only sell a karate chop to the forehead.
Right. But if Hogan can do a leg drop for all those years and be so impressive, you know, or your dad can go to the second rope and drop a fist, or the Rock and Roll Express can use just a drop kick, you know, karate chop, if you draw it out long enough, it's going to be something for the fans.
Yeah. Especially with that build-up, you know, all that build-up.
Right. It's the build-up to it that they're really getting into, and then the finish is just the payoff at the end. So
if he just hits you with a karate chop, that ain't nothing.
Yeah, it's like, well, we've seen that 100 times. There's no woo at it, let that be it.
Or like my dad, you know, when he, you know, if he just went up to the second and hit you with a fist drop, you know, there ain't nothing. That's not, you know, out of the ordinary. But if he's getting beat on for a good 15 minutes straight, and then he's had enough of it, and he pulls that strap down, and he starts kicking butt, you know, bam, 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 and finally knocks the guy down, bam. Then he goes to the second rope and hits you with a fist drop. Yes. Oh yeah, and see, now that meant something, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you know, if I start out the match, if I start out one of my matches and I hit the guy with a body slam and then an elbow off the ropes, you know, and then maybe a drop kick, and then I go up to the top turnbuckle and hit him with the leg drop. What is that? You know what I'm saying? Who cares? That's the problem with a lot of these matches, a lot of these wrestlers today. They don't really understand when and why you do things. You know what I'm saying? You know, they all understand because they play the video game so much. They understand what a finisher and a specialty and all that kind of stuff is. You know what I mean? But it's gone by the wayside, all the wrestlers that are around to teach, you know, teach these guys, you know, the basics of wrestling, you know, like I was saying. Now, see, now, if I've been beat on for a good long time, and then I start making a comeback, bam, 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 and something big happens, you know, boom, we're both down, and then finally I get my goggles and I climb up to the top rope and I shine them up real good and come off with that leg. You know what I'm saying? Now it's the right time. It's the right place and everything. But a lot of guys just do a lot of. I mean, they'll ding ding ding, match is on, and you'll see a hurricanrana, you know, within 2 minutes of the opening bell. You know what I'm saying?
Now, talking about that, you know, there's so many wrestlers in the last few years, and right now it's Roman Reigns. But there's been several over the past few years. The fans at first will get behind and back, and then it looks like they get a little push and they turn their back on them, and they don't like them anymore, and they want them completely out of the picture. Do you think it's something that the wrestlers is doing wrong at that point, or is it just the type of fan that's out there?
Well, I mean, it really depends on. I mean, you got to give me specific instances, you know, where this happened because. For
example, like, you know, Roman Reigns is, in my opinion, I like Reigns. I like him in the ring. I mean, he may not be the best talker on the mic. He doesn't have to be the best talker. He's decent on the mic, and that's good. That holds him over. But when he gets in the ring, he's very entertaining. He's athletic. He's got that Superman punch for show. He's got the spear that he beats people, that he gets people with. Yeah. But something about the fans, though, they just don't want him to have that belt on him. They don't want him to get any kind of a push. It's like they think he hasn't served his time yet or something, I guess.
Well, you know, that's the hardcore fans, because the majority of the fans now are, you know, adolescents. You know, because now that it's PG, ratings. You got all the, but before when it was R, you know what I'm saying, mothers and fathers, they didn't allow their kids to watch wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Watch WWF, WWE. But now that it's PG and it's been that way for a while now, the parents have no problem with their kids watching wrestling, and that's really smart because if you got two boys or a boy and a girl and they both like wrestling and wrestling comes to town, they're not driving themselves down there and buying a ticket each. Mom and dad's got to come also. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're selling 4 tickets. You're selling 4 tickets instead of 2. Back when it was R-rated, you know what I'm saying? You got a 22-year-old guy and he's going to go. He might bring his friend with him. You're selling 2 tickets. Now you're selling 3 or 4 every time. That's the way I look at it. You know what I'm saying? It's
Well,
always,
it is good business to do it that way. I mean,
yeah,
it might not be as entertaining sometimes. You don't see any blood hardly ever happen, and when it does, they say they get fined for it. But I mean, it doesn't always. There doesn't always be blood to make it a match. These guys can make great matches.
Hold on, man. Who says they get fined? Because I've never heard this. Who says they get fined?
Let me rephrase it.
You can't stop.
You can't believe everything you read on the internet. I know. But I heard
exactly.
Dave Bautista got quoted of a match he had where I don't know if it's him and Brock Lesnar or him and somebody else together, but they got fined for blood happening in the match. It was Dave Bautista and somebody else. I'm not sure of the other one yet. But there was an interview that was in print, and Dave Bautista said that he got fined heavier than the other person for it because he was the vet, I believe, in the match.
Yeah, well.
So I don't know for sure, but you can only go so far in what you read.
I don't know what's your ratings on this show.
On what show? This show?
Yeah.
As far as what?
As far as what you can say or what?
Oh man,
I don't do podcasts.
You say what you want, man. I don't hold anybody
Okay,
back.
well, I'm calling bullshit on Batista's comment in print. You know what I'm saying? Because how can you get, if somebody, whenever you see blood, it's real. Mm-hmm. Okay, whenever you see blood in wrestling, it's real. Now, the way it comes about, back in the day, might have been questionable or whatever, but it was real blood. It still is real blood. So if somebody's bleeding in the ring, they can't help it, and nobody wants to get busted open on purpose. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why would you want to risk that? So you're not voting. They don't want blood on television. So you don't want to bleed. So if somebody gets busted open, it obviously something happened, and somebody got busted open. That thing happens. That happens. You can't get fined for getting your, all the orbital bone around the eye socket. The skin around there is real thin. That's how back in the day, decades ago, wrestlers would give each other what we call hard ways. You know what I'm saying? You just hit somebody real hard around the eye socket, and the skin is so thin that it would just tear that skin, and it'll bleed like you wouldn't believe. It'll bleed 20 minutes, you know what I'm saying, and not stop, not coagulate. So that's going to happen. Guys are going to get hit in the face. Now to bust somebody's forehead open is a lot harder because the skin is a lot thicker up there, and so it's a lot harder to bust somebody open in the forehead. But anywhere else, around the mouth or anything, people are going to get busted open. You can't fine them for something that they can't control. They can't control who's swinging a punch, where they're going to punch them. And that's just ridiculous. That's preposterous.
Well, now I can actually tell you who the other person was. Now it was Jericho. While you were telling me the story, I was looking it up as well.
Oh, I guess they're going to find Jericho.
Yeah, well, it says Batista talks getting fined $100,000 by WWE. Says he knew things were never the same.
My. Okay, well you need to unfriend or dislike or whatever you can to that news center or whatever. Yeah, it's obviously run by a bunch of mizarks. You know what I'm saying? Oh, God.
Well, I've read crazy things before, That's why I said you can't believe everything.
No, hell no. Fuck, $100,000.
I mean, I don't even know. I know Batista was making good money, but I don't know if he was making good enough money to cover, $100,000 for a fine, pretty steep fine. You know what I mean?
Heck no, I'm not gonna divulge any what contracts are worth on your first 4 years or your second 4 years or anything like that. But I promise you, he wasn't making wasn't making enough to where they're gonna fine him for bleeding in a match $100,000. That's just that's that. You've said you've never heard that takes the cake when you heard about the Rikishi stink face on Trish Stratus earlier.
Oh yeah.
Well,
this
takes
the
the
best one
cake
so far.
Yeah, well, this takes the cake when it comes to stupidity, in the wrestling business. Somebody getting fined $100,000 for bleeding in a wrestling match. That's just
I know. Apparently,
see, there are some states out there that are regulated, by athletic commissions. Okay, that's why you're not going to see. That's why the WWE does not wrestle in Oregon that much. They do not wrestle in Arkansas that much. There's different states that consider wrestling hand-to-hand combat, and it's regulated by the athletic commission. So every wrestler has to have a wrestler's license. Managers have to have a manager's license. Promoters have to have promoters' license. Referees have to have referees' license. Anybody at ringside has to be licensed by the state, and you have to pass physicals, and you have to pass sexually transmitted disease tests, and just all kinds of things that you have to hurdles that you have to jump in order to get these licenses. And one of the I just wrestled in Arkansas 2 weeks ago, and the athletic commission was there, and they came in the dressing room. They said, if anybody tonight gets cut and starts bleeding and blood is present in the match must end immediately, and both participants must, or however many participants in the ring, everybody must be out of the ring within 5 minutes of the match being over, and just all these requirements that if somebody bleeds. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm just telling you, man. It
does sound very unbelievable and crazy. I mean, when you read it, when I read it now, it even seems like such a lot to of money to be put forward to something like that. And I know when it comes to Vince is all about the entertainment factor. He wants the people to get into the match as much as possible. And back in my when I was younger watching Memphis wrestling, it wasn't nothing to see blood dropped on TV. Especially if the Moondogs are in town or the Sheepherders are in town. One of the bloodiest things I ever seen was probably your dad and Tommy Rich against Dirty Rhodes and Don Bass, I think it was, out there on television, brawling everywhere.
Dirty Rhodes, that's bringing back some old-time memories for me right there. I remember Dirty Rhodes.
Yeah, I mean, he come out there, what were they, Fire and Flame, I think, weren't they, under the mask?
Yeah, Fire and Flame, and then Dirty Rhodes, his gimmick was he was the illegitimate brother of Dusty Rhodes, I believe, isn't that right?
He kind of had the look and a little bit of the sound, but he couldn't pull it off completely, though. But it was funny. They had this big, huge brawl. I mean, they were beating Tommy Rich up pretty bad, left him in a bloody heap. The guys all did a run in, save him. Goes to commercial, comes back. The guys, Dirty Rhodes is out there. He's talking with Don Bass, saying no one can beat us. All hyping themselves up real big. And then out from the curtain comes your dad with his shirt, his little polo shirt he had all ripped open and tore up. Looked like he'd been bloodied up earlier. Tommy Rich got some kind of a tissue stuck to his head at best. And they're out there fighting again. Chairs, throwing them into the background screening. I mean, it looked like your dad almost broke his knee falling down on accident, trying to get him to throw him into the thing behind Lance back there. And it was a big crazy scene. I mean, and I just seen this not too long ago again on YouTube. It's on YouTube to see. And
well, I'm gonna give you a little. I'm gonna give you a little inside scoop on why Tommy Rich. You would always see him in a big puddle of blood. You know, every time Tommy Rich got busted open, you remember his hair was bleached blonde, almost white, and then it would just be soaking wet with blood, and he'd have blood running all down his body. You know, all the way from his forehead all the way down to his chest and stuff like that. It's because he had a knack for bleeding. You know what I'm saying? So he would bleed as often as he could. You know, because a lot of guys, you know, you bust them open in the forehead and they just a trickle here and there. But Tommy Rich would bleed like a geyser. You know what I'm saying? So he had real thin skin on his forehead, which, you know, the skin on your body is the thickness of it is different, you know, in different places. So, you know, like the soles of your feet is 20 times thicker than the skin on your arms and stuff like that. And, you know, then you have superficial skin around the nose and ears and lips and stuff like that. But Tommy Rich's skin on his forehead was a lot thinner than most men, you know what I mean? And then he had high blood pressure also. So when he got busted up in the forehead, he bled like it looked like red wine had been poured on his head.
Oh my! Do you remember your first match? Who it was you wrestled against?
Man, all right. This is going to get me off the phone right here because this story is going to take about 2 or 3 minutes. But I do remember my first match. I was never formally trained to wrestle. You know, even though I was growed up in, you know, with my father, professional wrestler for so many years and everything, I love wrestling. Went to the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, sat on the front row for a good 7, 8, 9 years, you know, watching wrestling every Monday night. And then I would go into the hallways during intermission, and there were 2 guys that wrestled what we call outlaw wrestling. You know, that was back in the territory days. If you didn't work for a territory and you worked for just, you know, Joe Blow, you know, that owns a muffler shop, you know, in a little small town, and he's going to run a wrestling show, we call that outlaw wrestling because they weren't, you know, under contract or working for a major territory. So these 2 outlaw wrestlers at the Coliseum would get me and my brother, or me and my best friend, out in the hallway, and we'd go through like a little match, you know. And so we'd wrestle around. They'd wind up hitting us with clotheslines, and we'd catch a sunset flip on them and all kinds of stuff. So I knew, working around with these guys just as, you know, for the 10 minutes or so that we did. But this was every week. I'm picking up on things, you know, and I'm watching it on TV, so I know how to do. You know, I know how to do the basics of wrestling and everything. So I was 15 years old, and a wrestler that was in a serious program with my father, to where, I mean, the whole city, the whole territory, everybody believed that they really hated each other. It was the Snowman. You remember the Snowman?
Snowman.
You never heard of the Snowman?
Oh,
He's the one that stole the world heavyweight belt, the unified world heavyweight belt, and stole it for real, and took it and never gave it back, and was my dad had to sue him, and they repossessed 2 of his vehicles and gave them to my father, and just all kinds of stuff. And the guy,
did he also wrestle Atlanta wrestling, the NWA back in the day, or whatever they called it then? The Snowman, or was that a different guy I'm thinking of?
That was a different guy. I
honestly don't remember. You got me on that.
Yeah.
I kind of pride myself on Memphis wrestling, at least. I remember a lot of the people that come through there, but I'm drawing a blank on that.
All right. Well, it might be a good thing that you're drawing a blank, because this guy didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and didn't know an arm bar.
He wasn't even legit.
Yeah, he didn't know an arm bar from a cookie jar. You know what I mean? But anyway, he worked out at the same gym that I did in town, and he approached me and said, we're having wrestling down at a local high school, and would you like to come down there and hang out in the dressing room and everything and watch the matches? And I said, heck yeah. I said, my best friend, he's goes to high school with me, and so me and him went down there to the high school. We were watching the matches. We're at the curtain, all the wrestlers are in the dressing room behind us and everything. We're watching the matches, and the 2 guys in the ring were, I mean, god awful. You know what I mean? It could barely lock up. And so we're watching this, and I'm turning to my buddy and I said, hey, that guy right there in the blue tights, he sucks. And the guy right there in the yellow tights, he sucks worse than he does. You know, and so we're making fun of him. Well, one of the wrestlers came up from behind and said, hey guys, Lawler's son over here says we suck. I said, no, I didn't say. He said, yeah, you did. You said we suck. I said, no, I said that guy right there sucks, and that guy right there, he really sucks. You know, and he said, oh, so you think you can do any better? And I said, well, if you're talking about better than these two guys, I know I can. I promise you I can. So, you know, I knew, what I'd done at the with my buddies at the Coliseum and everything. So I'd never been in a wrestling ring before. They said they'd let me borrow some tights, borrow some boots. I went out there with my best friend, and we had by far the best match on the card in front of about 600 fans. Had never been in a wrestling ring before in our life. I took that tape. It was videotaped. I took that tape, and I thought I was going to make my dad laugh. I took it over to his house, and I said, sit down. I'm going to show you something that's going to be real funny. And I put that videotape in, and he watched it, and he said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you a catalog to the only people in the United States that makes wrestling gear, and then I'm going to give you the number to one of the bootmakers over in Arkansas that makes wrestling boots, and you get yourself some boots and you get yourself some tights, and I'll think about letting you and your partner come down and wrestle on Saturday morning wrestling. And so we did that. He wanted us to get masks. He didn't want anybody to know who I was or anything like that. And we had tights that covered our entire body. I mean, you know, our necks were even, you couldn't see any skin, you know what I'm saying? So we went down. Actually, he told us, he said, you're 2 blocks away from the TV5 we had wrestling at TV5 there in Memphis, downtown Memphis. He said, when you're 2 blocks away from the TV station, I want you to put your mask on, and then when you get in the dressing room, I want you to keep your mask on. Do not take them off for nobody. Don't tell anybody your name. Don't let them know who you are. So, we did that, and we didn't know, this is our first time sitting down in a real dressing room, with real wrestlers, not these outlaw wrestlers, but real wrestlers. And so we're sitting there, and I'll never forget my first day, the Dream Machine. You remember Troy Graham, yes. The Dream Machine? Yeah, yes. The Dream Machine comes up. Dream Machine comes up to us and he says, hey, you boys gonna keep your mask on, or y'all gonna take your mask off, huh? What's this all about? And so, no, sir, we're going to leave our masks on. And, we're sitting in the chairs scared to death. And he's like, oh, so you're not going to take your mask off, huh? What do you think you are, a couple of shooters? Huh? You going to leave your mask on, huh? You think you ain't going to take them off? And, no, sir, we were told to keep them. Oh, okay. Got some Mexican shooters in here, everybody. Got some Mexican. You want you try to take me down, Lucha Libre, Mexican shooter? Who told you to leave your mask on? So so it goes without saying that just about every week that we wrestled on TV, we got the snot kicked out of us, because all the guys in the dressing room just hated our guts because we wouldn't take our mask off, So that went on for about a year and a half.
Man. The Troy Graham thing that brings back a lot of memories too. When you mentioned Troy Graham, he could really go out on TV and make a spectacle if anybody.
Yeah, man.
Really talk.
And you talk about somebody that could talk and somebody that could bleed. He could bleed and he could talk like no other. He was a great promo. Some of the greatest. I always thought Dusty Rhodes was Troy Graham kind of patterned his interview after Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes back in the day was one of the top 5 interviews of all time. But Troy Graham, in Memphis, just in the Memphis territory, he was probably in the top 5. He was. Like I said, man, I've been on here. I've enjoyed it. This is good. Nice talking to you, Chris. And I see by the telephone number you called, you're down there in Pensacola, huh?
I'm actually to the west. I'm in Panama City.
Brother, I want you to go to my Facebook. Go to either my Facebook or Rikishi's Facebook. We are coming to Panama City. I can't believe this. Yeah, We're coming to Panama City. We are coming to Panama City June the 10th, June 9th, 10th, and 11th. We're going to be in Panama City. Then we're going to be in Fort Walton the next night. You need to check it out and come down there and tell them at the ticket office that Brian Christopher was on your podcast, and I'll get you free tickets, man, to you and all your friends. Y'all come down there and be my guest.
I will definitely check it out. Now, is this a wrestling event you're doing or something different?
Heck yeah, wrestling event. Me and Rikishi, dog. Too cool. Right. Reuniting.
I'm going to definitely look forward to that. I will look on your Facebook and Rikishi's both. If I don't see them on yours, I'll look on his for certain. If you're going to be in town, I'm not going to miss that for sure.
All right, brother.
All right,
it's been real and it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun.
Well, hey, thanks a lot for taking the time to come on the show with us, and we really appreciate it, Brian. Okay, Grandmaster.
All right, brother.
Sexxay. It is.
There you go, brother. I like it.
Right.
Peace out.
Have a great one. Bye.